to see so many people here today. Um, we have a wonderful event planned for you. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment and have our president of the college, Dr. Thomas Sekenegbe, bring you welcome from BCC and from his office.
Hi, Dr. Yvonne Iraz. I just want to say thank you. I was just calling in as a listener just to listen and soak into, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to say welcome to everybody and thank you to the Social Justice Organizing Committee for putting this together. You know, we live in a tense and different world. The COVID on one side, you know, we're dealing with all of the anxiety of the COVID and we're dealing with the results of the elections. So and when you look at the world in which we live in, things have really changed. So I am so glad that we're talking about this topic today. Just what is the effect of incarceration? What's the effect of coming back into a normal life and into normal society? We all have made mistakes, but should you pay that price for forever and forever and forever and forever? My answer is no. I think as a forgiving society, we need to find ways to work with people that have made that mistake, to find ways to integrate them back into our society. So I know a lot of work. I see Elizabeth there, I see Jose, people that do work in this particular area. I want to say thank you to all of the work that you do. It's more or less like missionary work that you do every day for our students and for people around our city. So I want to say thank you. I'm going to just kick back, relax, and listen to all of the panelists this afternoon. Again, welcome everybody, and I hope you have a wonderful time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sekenegbe. I have the pleasure of introducing these four wonderful panelists. Um, are we? My apologies. Are we going to do the poll before I introduce the panelists or after? So what you're going to find against your screen, well, I'll come up on the screen, is a small poll that we would like you to quickly fill out.
I was going to ask that everyone get the poll, but I just noticed Beverly put on her glasses. So I know that she has. Beverly, it's okay, girl. Look at me.
Okay, let's see. We have a few more seconds left for the poll. I'm pretty sure. Do I end the polling? Just
I handle the poll.
okay. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm look right now. We have 20. We have 50% complete, so we're still waiting on
All
the
right.
rest.
Good. And we have a nice suggestion from Mr. Jose Lopez to make sure all the questions are filled out. He had some type of issue from the submit.
Just a few seconds left.
All right.
Okay, and the poll is closing in. Hold on. in 10 seconds. Okay.
Ah,
So these are the results. Um, are you all able to see it? We have about 70% of people, or are you able to see it, Yvonne? I'm sorry.
I do. What
Okay.
we There are about 70% of this audience that were polled that actually know someone or who was incarcerated, formerly incarcerated. 30% said no. For the second question, 19% of the audience said that they felt that they were violent criminals. 12% said that they would felt that they would be victimized by a formerly incarcerated person, and 21% viewed them as not trustworthy, where 60% viewed did not fear individuals who were released from prison. On the third question, uh, 14% agreed that they don't have any issues whether or not a person was a felon, formerly a felon, and they wouldn't um, or wouldn't want to live near one. Uh, 60% disagreed, and about 26% are unsure. With regard to question number 4, we have 2% that agree, 79% disagree, 19% unsure. And on the last question, do you believe the formerly incarcerated individuals should be allowed to vote? 91% agreed, 5% disagreed, and 5% were unsure. So it's an interesting poll to see how people are view formerly incarcerated individuals, and this is what brings about the importance of this particular topic. When we talk about persons who are re-entering or who are formerly incarcerated and how they have to go through most of their lives with with stigmas attached to that incarceration. We have a wonderful panel who are going to answer questions, uh, uh, answer certain questions, talk about why they do what they do, why do they have their feelings about incarceration and stigmas that are attached to it. I'm going to introduce all 4 with their brief bio. I'd be remiss if I did not introduce our former alumnus, and Hunter, former alumnus, and our very first, actually, Khalif Browder scholarship recipient, Miss Beverly Emmers, who is also currently working as a policy assistant for the Welfare Rights Initiative at Hunter College and is a community liaison for Bronx Art Space. So she's going to speak about why she does what she does. So that's why I don't want to go through the whole bio. Um, we also have Mr. William M. Evans, and he is a board member at the New Yorkers Against Gun Violence, uh, Public Allies New York, Speak Peace Now. He's also the co-founder of Never Be Caged. He's the founder and president of Neighborhood Benches and a member of Restorative Roots Collaborative. Mr. Evans is a restorative justice practitioner who specializes in strategic urban leadership development and 3 levels of healing to transform systems impacted individuals into that change behaviors and rebuilding communities. We have Dr. David Pitt from the Vera Institute of Justice. Um, Dr. Pitts is a senior research associate where he focuses on understanding and mitigating the harms of incarceration. And we have our very own Miss Elizabeth Pomye Pomyans
Piams.
Piamps. I am forever gonna get that wrong, and I apologize. Um, but Elizabeth, you can come and say my name whenever you want. Uh, she is currently the founding director of Future Now at Bronx Community College, and that is a campus-based HSE and college enrollment program offering a wide range of classes for students ages 17 to 24. And she's been recognized by New York Public Library's prestigious um, Brooke Russell Astor Award for her significant impact in the field of education. Um, I'm going to address the each of the panelists with questions. Each panelist will have about 2 minutes per question. So this first question, I'm going to first ask Ms. Emmers and then Mr. Evans to answer. Beverly, why did you start working with this specific population?
Good afternoon again, everyone. So the reason for me working with the Welfare Rights Initiative is basically because of my personal experience of having access to education and just how having education and going to college, how it has been very transformative to me healing, and not only healing, like actually understanding just just the systematic ways of how I got into being incarcerated, and just learning how systems were like sort of set up as a systematic racism tool. um I believe that education is just extremely important, and important tool. It doesn't have to be college, but is it an important tool to growing, and it's also an important tool to preventing recidivism, employment, and having education. And so what we do at the Welfare Rights Initiative is to increase access to education, and part of one of those components that we are wanting to collaboratively focus on is working with John Jay, who has a justice initiative, who is starting classes in state facilities and also at BMCC, and just having the experience.
Understood.
I'll be crying all the time.
I
Know,
know,
but
and I
it's
love
because I'm
it.
so grateful, right? And
I
just what CUNY and education has done for me, I know that is important. Is
mhm.
extremely important. And so I'm committing my life. I'm not only doing it now, I've made my mind up that I'm committed to helping people build the bridge back to um non-disenfranchisement. So they have all their rights and have all the tools that they need. So there goes
Thank you
my
so
response to
much.
your question.
Thank you so much, Beverly. Um, Mr. Evans, Mr. William Evans, can you tell us why you started working with this particular population?
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. One of the reasons I started working this with this population was because I knew I had a connection, right? Not only because of prior experiences, but also knowing the community in which I come from. I come from a community that's impacted by various systems in many ways, and when you see a young brother or a young sister who look lost because they're impacted by the system and because they're living in neighborhoods that's like disconnected from the larger world, you always think back to how it impacted you and what it is that you can do. So I launched Neighborhood Ventures with the idea to go back into the community in which I come from and find other individuals who have also been harmed or impacted by either violence or incarceration, and just somewhat like taking their hand and walking them through these various steps that can get them to be acknowledged, and so they can trust in themselves and believe in themselves. So I make sure when I'm doing this work that I only not only just remind people of some of the things that I've been through, but I also remind them that they can also do the same thing that I'm doing if they have enough trust and believe in themselves to have a voice and have a strong enough voice to where people can not only understand them but hear them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Evans. Before I move on to the next question, I just want to let everyone know here that we understand that the topic is a very strong emotional topic. And we do have someone here should you need to talk to someone or for any reason, or if this particular topic or whatever subject comes around may feel like a trigger. And her name is Esther Levy, and she is one part of our personal counseling. So if you need to, please feel free to either private message her or maybe message Angela or Nathan so that they can connect you with her. Dr. Pitts, can you tell us a little bit about the Vera Institute, the work that Vera Institute of Justice does, as well as the work you do around reentry?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really honored to be asked to be part of this panel and happy to share with you what we're working on at Vera. So I'm here actually not only in my capacity as a researcher at Vera, but also as someone who was formerly incarcerated and experienced reentry. And so I draw upon both my professional work and my personal experience when I talk about these things. So for those of you who are not familiar with Vera, the Vera Institute of Justice is based here in New York. It's a nonprofit. We work to improve the justice system writ large, and we work to improve the lives of those impacted by it, and we work to make it more equitable. So at Vera, a key aspect of our mission is the fact that we recognize the criminal legal system that exists as a tool of white supremacy. It has mass incarceration's roots go back to slavery. They go back to our stealing indigenous lands, and they are linked to our xenophobia around the immigrants that come to our country. And so all of those things together make the experiences of Black and Brown people particularly noteworthy in this setting. And so we work on understanding those disparities as well as making improvements for everybody impacted by the system. And when it comes to our reentry work, we focus on two specific things, and I can talk more about these as the sort of session progresses. One is we're trying very hard to improve access to post-secondary education for those who are in prison and those who are recently released from prison. As Beverly mentioned, that's so important in a number of ways. And we want to make that available to everybody, regardless of their financial situation and their incarceration status. The second thing we work on is housing. And those of you who've been to prison or know someone who's come out of prison know that finding housing is tough. You have no money usually when you come out of prison, and sometimes no family members. And so we're working hard to change some policies around that to make it easier for people to land on their feet when they're released. But thanks again for having me. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much. Okay. Elizabeth, I've worked with so many of your wonderful students, and I've worked with you for a very long time. Can you tell us about the work that you do with Future Now as well around reentry? Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Yvonne. Yes, we worked together for a long time, and you are actually one of those people that has been helpful in helping us. You know, one of the things that I love to hear when we go around the city is that Bronx Community College is reentry friendly. So it's a well-known fact that here at BCC, there is a community of people that support returning citizens. And I love that word better than formerly incarcerated, because we're talking about stigma, you know, and when we use words like ex-convict, formerly incarcerated, it kind of labels people. Mm-hmm. And self-fulfilling prophecies, right? You act according to how you're labeled. And it's already, bad. Somebody told me the other day that I treat formerly incarcerated people as if they as if they graduated from Harvard University, because we give them so many opportunities. And it kind of hurt me because coming out of prison is not graduating from Harvard University, right. You know? But it kind of shows you how we are conditioned to think a certain way. And sometimes I love the survey that you guys did at the beginning, because we have these biases that sometimes we don't even know we have. Will you live next to somebody if you found out that they are, an ex-felon, let's say? And I also have question. Why is it that formerly incarcerated people cannot vote? What does voting have to do with choosing who's going to be your president? So my question is, what makes you less qualified to make that decision? So I agree with Mr. Pitt, Dr. Pitts. I mean, I learn every time I listen to you.
And I feel the exact same way as well. Yeah, because this is what I'm saying, why do we have to pick our president?
Right.
Why do we have to keep going with this?
Mhm. Well, we're going to be asking, and any question you might have about that, you can direct that question to Mr. Nathan Aiken or Miss Angela Wambubu Cobb. Okay. And then we'll ask it to each of the participants. Thank you so much for that question, though.
Yes, thank you. So I just want to finish by saying, Yvonne, that we went into this field because I remember going to Rikers the first time I ever worked there. I looked at the line outside. There were about something like 300 young people, 16 to 18-year-olds, and they were all brown, in the line. So that was my first shock, because I realized that this is systemic. There's no coincidence that all these young people are lined up going into the lunchroom. And I asked my supervisor at the time, who happened to be Greek, and he basically told me, white people don't commit crimes. So I'm not saying, that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all the white people that have paved the way to assist, and to stop the oppression that Mr. Pitts was talking about. I'm talking about a certain group of people. Like every culture has a certain group of people that are not, that should not be leading and should not be in leadership. They either have criminal tendencies or they are part of a generational hatred, and they keep promoting these things. So I don't want to leave. Jose is here. He's where is Jose Lopez? Jose works with a lot of our students returning from incarceration who have done really well at BCC, have graduated. Khalif Browder was thriving at Bronx Community College. And it was thanks to Dean Gant, Angela, Esther Levi, Cristo Rodriguez. We have professors that have come over to Future Now and have said, how can we help? If these students are in a class, please let us know who they are so that we can help. And I think that those are the kind of things we need to do more of so that we can provide real support and make sure that our students don't go back to prison or don't become lifetime, repeater offenders. So just want to take a little bit of my time to give it to Jose because, like I said, he is Future Now. And he's here joining us today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Jose, did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Just to speak about, there was a few comments in the chat that I just wanted to answer to, and one of them was about what are the barriers that a lot of people who just come home, what they have to go through. And I think there were options like employment, housing, education, and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main barrier there will be mental health because
Mm-hmm.
mental health prevents all the other ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if mentally I'm not right, it's hard for me to find a job, which will lead to housing. And if I'm stable, then I can, get my education. So I think mental health is probably one of the most important barriers that we have to help our students with. I work with the students, and I know that education it is a good advantage for people who are back in society. But I'm just thinking about all the challenges that my students talk to me about, and usually it's
absolutely
mental health. So I
think I'm gonna let you hold on to that because I know after later on in the program we're gonna actually have some breakout sessions and each of the students can have an opportunity to ask you questions regarding your programs and regarding what you're all a part of. This next question, I'm going to address it to Dr. Pitts first. What current policies or practices need to be changed to remove the stigma or discrimination of formerly incarcerated individuals?
Thank you. Yeah, I think there are four that I'll focus on, and I'm interested to hear what the other panelists say about this because I think we all come at this from different perspectives. For me, the two that come to mind first and most often are ban the box policies for both employment and housing. So for those of you who aren't familiar with ban the box, it's essentially a movement that says there shouldn't be a box on any application that asks you if you're formerly incarcerated, have a conviction history, been arrested, any of those things, because we don't think that employers and landlords should be allowed to discriminate against you on those factors. And so I think eliminating those barriers to both employment and housing would go a long way toward getting people back on their feet. And those are both things that we work on at Vera. We also want to change public housing regulations to allow people with convictions to live there as well. So some of you may not know that housing authorities throughout the United States, many of them don't allow people with any convictions to live there, even if their family already lives there. So when people return to their community after being incarcerated, they have nowhere to go if they can't stay with their family, and they may not have enough money, and almost no one has enough money to buy housing on their own or to rent housing on their own. And so that's also, I think, an important factor. I think to piggyback on something Elizabeth said, it's really important to reinstate voting rights to everyone in every state. Some states allow those with convictions to vote. I'm lucky that I live in New York and they allow me to do that. Other places don't. And there's no reason you should be completely disenfranchised from your voting rights and from your civic life just because you've been incarcerated or have a conviction. And then the last thing that I'll mention is that I think we really need to work on pathways to a college education, whether it's providing college education in a facility that you can continue when you're released, or making sure you have the support structure when you're released to pursue a college education.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask the same question, and it can go to first Mr. Evans, then Elizabeth, and then Beverly. So kind of mull it over while I ask it.
What? I'm
yeah.
sorry, I think VP Delgado has a question.
It's not a question. I just want to put a point of clarification. I completely support ban the box. However, there are licenses that you get an education for, and the whole reason you're getting that education is to go for a license, and you are not granted that license because you have a conviction. So I think we can't speak in these broad terms of there should never be no ban the box, because then there are students who will do 4 years, 5 years of an education to get a degree that then they cannot get their license. And I will specifically cite SUNY Maritime. The Department of Transportation will not grant a merchant mariner license if you have a conviction. Whether that's right or wrong is something separate. So if we did not ask that in the application, we could have students who would do a 4-year bachelor's engineering degree and never be able to get their license. So I just want to be careful of how we say some of these, broad stroke items.
Thank you for that, VP Delgado. So the question that I'll be asking now, I'm repeating the question. What current policies or practices need to be changed to remove the stigma or discrimination of formerly incarcerated individuals? And Mr. Evans, you are next.
So, thank you both, Irene and David, for what you shared. There are situations where individuals are coming home, and employment and housing is definitely at the top of the list. When you're looking at these different practices that's in place that's preventing people from actually securing these, those are some of the indicators that a lot of people are looking at, but also some of the ways people are repeating the same behaviors. People get fed up, people get tired. And for those that's listening that have no idea of what it's like, even when you're inside and when you're going through the process of criminalization, I invite you to watch two films. One is Rikers Innocence Lost, and the other one is Cash in America, Cash Bell in America. Both is which I played a part in, but that would definitely have you better understand what's going on with individuals when they're inside and upon their release, and what it looked like coming back to community. But it's definitely important that we become more vocal, because you have individuals like myself and others, when we're released, even if you're convicted or not, when you're released, a lot of these places are turning you away, whether it's employment or housing. I could think back when I was 16 years old, and because of an arrest, I was told that I had to leave my grandmother's home. So it's different things like that you don't really hear talked about on a broader scale, but those little things, it becomes something huge. So those type of practices we definitely have to look out for and be and have a voice in.
Thank you for those thoughts. Um, Elizabeth, same question.
Hi. So I agree with Mr. Pitts that the best way to remove the stigma or to help is one, to empower people to become college graduates so that they can have a voice at the table and they can represent others and liberate others as well. I also I want to say that a lot of people, and this was told to me by Dr. Marty. He was the interim president at VCC. He said many people have not been incarcerated because they have not been caught. It's not that because they have not committed some kind of offense, and he went on to share with Khalif his own history, back in Cuba, how he avoided, being in prison. So it made me think about that. We're very quick to judge sometimes. And I want to add that most, in my opinion, some of the greatest minds in history have been incarcerated. And it took for them to go through that experience to rise up and change history in the course of things, right? So, yes, I think the stigma will go away once we begin to see people like Mr. Pitts, like Mr. Evans, a lot of other people that are been in the situation and are now have overcome and even, I mean, Beverly, you are amazing. I mean, I remember when I first met you and I told you that you are powerful, and I can't wait to see all the things that you're gonna do, to show that you should not be held accountable for something you did, one action. What about all the other great things that you've done? You know? I'm so glad President Sekineb is here because I just have to say he really supports our population. He comes and meets all the students. He
Mhm.
comes into the classrooms and he shakes hands with every single person. Every single person feels visible and they feel welcome and they look forward to moving on to college. So we need help, graduating as many people as possible. One, so that they don't go back to prison, and others so they can help others
Thank
to
you.
avoid incarceration. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly, so what current policies or practices need to be changed to remove the stigma of discrimination, stigma or discrimination of formerly incarcerated individuals? Go ahead. I know you've been dying to say something.
Yeah, no, I was actually right. Like I'm programmed. I write notes for everything. That's from being in the classroom. But I just want to lead off by saying that the institution of the city of university, like we're extremely powerful. Like we have 500,000 students. Just probably almost the whole city has gone through a CUNY institution. And so in my mind, I'm just thinking if CUNY wholeheartedly got behind some initiatives to heal and build bridges, like we could like make an impact because we're so politically intertwined into the fabric of New York City and the state. Um, I just want to reiterate what Elizabeth said earlier about words and language. Language and the words that they use to describe individuals definitely is something that we need to start to alter, right? So even when you watch the news, just how they use words for a brown person versus a white person, and they could have done the same thing. And they will refer to the person that's brown as, a wolf or something to that extent. So language is something that we need to look at. And just in addressing the systematic racism,
I agree too.
So hold on, I'm
Like you
sorry.
said,
But to the audience members, you have to remain muted during the panel discussion. If there are any comments or questions, please utilize the chat. Thank you. Go ahead, Beverly.
The other thing is just this 13th Amendment that kind of gives way to this. Um, it just needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed because it leaves provision for mass incarceration. I think one of an additional practice is that parole and the Department of Probation should have some accountability for really supporting individuals who are coming home and not just continue to police them and monitor them. They should have some type of resources and relationship building, right? Because I know, being released, I didn't really know how to function within relationships or even how to engage with my family. Like that relationship piece with myself and just other individuals, people who have never even been incarcerated have challenges with that, but just coming from a place where you have to be hyper vigilant for your safety and, just being like re-victimized, relationship building is an important component of that.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Thank you so much, Beverly. All right, I'm going to start Mr. Evans on this question. What do you recommend we do to individually help remove the stigma of formerly incarcerated individuals in our personal, academic, and or professional lives?
Okay, thank you. Definitely. So I know a lot of things seem like it becomes complicated when we're using big words and different policies and laws. So I'm gonna keep it simple for you, right? So as an individual that have been impacted by these various systems, specifically in incarceration, I would say language is definitely important. When you hear someone using even things like formerly incarcerated, we use terms like returning citizens, right, or community members. So when you hear someone using a term that even reminds you of someone being incarcerated, it's important to remind them that these are still human beings. And as far as the academic, I would say that invite more people into your classroom who has been impacted by the system, who possibly spent time or just been arrested. Because I think that firsthand knowledge is very important. Over here at Neighborhood Benches, we take a group of guys formerly incarcerated, and we bring students into the neighborhood, and we allow them to take them on tours to explain to them what it used to look like and what it is now, and some of the things that they've been doing since they've been home. So that's our way of connecting the young people with formerly incarcerated people, because a lot of these people are professionals these days. A lot of them study college courses while they was inside, and they know what it is to give it their all. So they have a lot to offer. So I invite you to do that. Make sure you correct language when you hear it, and invite more people like us into your classroom.
Thank you so much, Mr. Evans. That is some really great advice. Dr. Pitts, and then Beverly, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just want to reaffirm the language issue that the rest of the panelists have mentioned. It's incredibly important. I think in addition to that, in just general senses, always ask people who've been incarcerated sort of how you can be helpful. Don't make assumptions about what you think they need. So I work in an organization with a lot of white liberal people who try their best to be helpful, but Jesus Christ, sometimes they just do the wrong thing. And so asking us what we want is what we really need to be doing instead. And don't trot out people who've been formerly incarcerated as some sort of dog and pony show that makes them into some caricature of a person who's made it from a bad past. I mean, some incarcerated people or people who've been incarcerated like to talk about their past. They want to be helpful to the community and sharing what they've gone through. Others don't. And it's their choice whether they do that, and it's their choice whether they even disclose that they were incarcerated at all. Which brings me to the last thing I was going to say, which is that it's not on you to disclose what happened to them. It's on them to disclose it. And you should just treat them like you would treat anybody else. So if they need bad criticism, give them the criticism. You don't need to kind of walk on eggshells with them. They're people. They want to be treated like normal people who are in society just like you. They don't want to be told that their work is great if their work's not great, but they don't want to be told that their work is not great if it actually is. So again, I think just be as fair with them as you can in your day-to-day life.
Thank you. Beverly?
Bev, you're muted.
This is for all areas. I think people need to educate themselves, and I just want to suggest some reading materials. And if you don't like reading, you can find the audiobook. But I think it's important to read Slavery by Another Name and The New Jim Crow, because it'll give you some insight how the system was sort of set up. And then once you understand it, I think that it will help remove the stigma, because you would begin to understand how it's a setup. We were set up, and the history of police. I think that is very important to understand this, and it will impact you personally, professionally, and academically. And I want to say this because this language thing keeps coming up, right? So in the persons living with disabilities, people who identify with particular races, there have been times that they've had different labels and they have become politically incorrect or politically outdated. Maybe we need to pursue that so it's officially known not to refer to individuals as formerly incarcerated. I don't know what the process is, but I think that it could be done somewhere. I don't know what the process is, but the language she's coming up. I know somebody from the New York City Human Rights Commission is here. Maybe it's a thing that we need to formally address that.
Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth, and if you could just say again how you like to refer to this population rather than formerly incarcerated?
Returning citizens.
Returning citizens. I love that.
That came from, I believe that came from, what's her name? Tamar. She's at John Jay now. She used to be a VCC. Yes. And we shared that term with the chancellor. And he actually was using it during his speech.
It's a
we were like, oh, he agrees. So it's returning citizens, but I just want to, I would love for Angela Wambugu. She here to chime because I think one of the things that would be great is the creation of a social justice center at Bronx Community College. The same way we have a veterans office, and Tiffany too. Tiffany has not given this up, and I'm so happy. We have been very persistent around it. We have a veterans office, we have Edge, Denise is here. So I think we all need to understand the trauma associated with being incarcerated, and then how we can re-traumatize somebody. It could be in a way of them being in our classrooms, right? And we are basically not being kind and respectful, and how that can re-trigger some of the already. And then it leads to a lack of retention too, for the school. So we need to see how this is beneficial to everyone involved. Not beneficial, definitely not to the student, not to the institution. And as a whole, if we find the ways to provide support systems and really understand, how a person that's coming out of prison is supposed to make it. I mean, they're expected to just go on and forget this experience and be like anybody else. And I think we need to realize that if people don't have the right support, they're more likely to go back to doing what they know.
Yeah, thank you.
That feels better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yvonne, if I can jump in.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm seeing a question in the chat, and I'm curious too. So VP Delgado asked, will we use that term returning citizens? What happens when the conversation continues and they ask returning from where?
So Elizabeth, when using or utilizing that term returning citizens, what happens when they ask them returning from where?
So I think the way Tamar was looking and the reason I agreed is because when you say formerly incarcerated, it's kind of like bound the box. The reason why I'm glad they took that away is because people were discriminating against college enrollment. There were universities that were using the box, not so much for the specific careers that the students were going into. That's something that the advisors, if we're doing advising right, should discuss with the students individually. If you want to be a nurse, but you already have this type of crime because every license has, specific crimes associated with it. Or if you want to go work in a bank, but you were robbing banks before, you kind of like can see, and I'm sorry, David, maybe you can speak more to this than me, but what I'm saying is that you by using returning citizens, you don't have that stigma right away in a conversation. So you're not basically
Right.
disclosing the information immediately. That should come after. It's the same thing we tell the guys when they go on job interviews.
Hmm.
Every time they ask you why were you in jail, you can actually move away very quickly and say, well, I made a mistake and this is what I've done since then. So bring it back to what your strengths are and your assets, because we cannot go around for an hour talking about the crime, but we need to focus on what's important. So that's why I like the term. But if you guys have others that you think, and that's a really good
Hmm.
question, Irene.
Hmm.
I didn't think of it that way, but you made me think about it.
Hmm.
We are returning from somewhere,
Yes.
and it's thank you.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if I answered the question.
Okay. Yeah, you did. In an effort to conserve time, because I know we wanted to have our breakout rooms, right? We're still doing that, right? Um, Dr.
We're
Richard
good
Lewis.
at for 3 p.m. for the breakout rooms.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So Dr. Richard Lewis, who is in the audience right now, had a question for the panelists, and he said, research indicates that the main barriers to reentry are employment, housing, education, and mental health. And I think we all heard that from every panelist and even some of the audience. Um, so he asked, which of these do you think is the main reentry barrier? And do you feel there are any additional? I'm pretty sure there's more additional reentry barriers, but I think that it's interesting to find out which of these are the main, do you feel are the main reentry barrier? Anyone can take it.
Um, I
William?
would to answer that one. One of the main entry barriers should be looked at when you're looking at community, because you um, law enforcement have have um, have a have a common practice of taking people from a community but not properly returning them, right? So what happens is that when I look at my situation, when I was arrested in front of all of my community members, right? That's all they know. All they know is that I was taken away and then I came back. So none of them have that understanding of what took place, right? So I think the main barrier that we have to look at is how to reintegrate individuals into that specific community, so therefore they can feel more comfortable with engaging a larger community. But I think we need to start there first, because it's not that we're returning them to the world. We're returning them to that specific community in which they was taken from.
Thank you. Dr.
Do we have,
Pitts or whoever?
hi, Yvonne, do we have time for another question?
I okay. I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted to add what they felt was the main reentry barrier. Anyone else?
And then once we finish with the panel discussions, we're gonna go into the questions that were placed on the chat.
Okay. Okay, so then we have the final question that I had for on my list is there any other information or resources that you'd like to share with our audience? I know you shared a couple of books, a couple of films, but is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Um, I I I have a comment because BCC has a robust art program, and just being at the art gallery, I just want to lift up and I want to challenge BCC, maybe thinking about beginning an art therapy program, because we did secure a grant at the gallery that I'm at, but because of COVID is on delay, and the plan was to use the funding and bring some people in to do art therapy for returning citizens and using that as a tool for relationship building and healing.
That is a wonderful plug there. And I think you're absolutely correct. That's actually wonderful. Anyone else would like to add any other information or resources that you can offer? If not, we'll move on to some of the questions that were in the chat. And do we have them? Go ahead.
Yes. So I would like to inform people about neighborhood benches, where we're working with individuals 90 days before they're actually released. So we're providing them with material and information about how to return to the community. And we're offering volunteer opportunities as well as some stipend positions whenever that's available, just to help get them reacclimated with community, and some of the things that's important, like being a mentor. So neighborhoodbenches.org, neighborhoodbenches.com, .info, as well as follow us on Instagram, where you can see the work that we're doing every day.
Thank you. And I think we are going to send out a couple of those links and a lot of the resources that you did offer, each of you offered. So we're going to send it out to all the people who RSVP'd today. Any other question? Oh, wait, I see a question. Oh,
We also have a hand raised.
Oh,
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Kind of an old one that's been sitting there. So I just want to, and I think it was a good one. Are there any, this is Stephanie's question, are there any previously incarcerated people that reentry programs don't work with, such as sex offenders? If you do work with sex offenders, how do you deal with the severity of the crimes some have committed? Do you find it hard to feel compassion for them and the difficulties they face after they've been released? And how do you deal with that? I know she's been waiting a while, so any of the panelists that are open to that question.
I can speak to it briefly. We actually don't do a lot of work with people convicted of sex offenses. We should use people first language, right? If we can. And so we don't do much work with them at Vera, not by choice, but because much of our work is funded by government and other organizations, and governments don't like to spend money on populations that don't have public support. So the unfortunate case with that population is that the mass public doesn't find that to be a redeemable group, like it may find the people convicted of other crimes to be a redeemable group. And when the public doesn't support it, then of course the dollars don't go where they need to go and the programs get to be more scarce. So I actually think that's a fantastic question. I started to answer it and then it got too far up in the chat. I started to type an answer. It's an area that needs a lot of work, honestly.
Is that the hand raised one?
No, there are other questions that are in the group.
Okay.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
For that question, look more. I invite you to look into restorative practices, restorative justice. These are healing circles where the harmed have an opportunity to understand how they harmed someone, and vice versa. That information in that moment of sharing and clarity can be shared within that space. So you can go to the Restorative Roots Collaborative, where you can also find additional information regarding healing, circle keeping, and restorative justice.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Angela.
So Matthew Polino had a question. He asked, are there any social programs that will help returning citizens show proof that they're already reformed and that they want to lead a better life themselves, like work, housing, etc.?
So I think that may be referencing certificate of good conduct. Maybe it's supposed to, something you apply for to restore, to kind of say that you've been rehabilitated. A certificate of relief and a certificate of good conduct. It depends how many felonies you have.
Thank you, Beverly. Any other questions, Nathan or Angela?
Well, I think, so Olga had her hand up.
Yes,
next.
she did.
I just don't have her question here.
Olga, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
I didn't have a question. You were kind of going about which other services organizations present, so I was going to tell a little bit about us, but then it went a little bit to the deeper end.
Well, we're actually about to go into the breakout. I did see Elizette Rodriguez had a question. Where can we get a list of employers that will hire returning citizens upon release from prison? Good question.
Can I answer that? So I want to say something about, in addition to the certificate of relief and good conduct, Esteliva has a question, where do you get that? So the best place that we use is at John Jay, the college initiative. They are actually able to also help you get your rap sheet. A lot of people have a lot of crimes on their rap sheet that are not even truthful. So that's a good place to start cleaning up and making sure the information on there is accurate, and also they can help you apply. Normally you have to apply for the certificate of relief and good conduct through the court. And your parole officers are supposed to be helping with that. That's one of their roles. But as Evan was saying, unfortunately, they tend to work on bringing you back. They focus that sometimes more than on educating people and teaching them the right ways to clean up the rap sheet. So.
Thank you so much. And in an effort to make sure that you guys get to go out into your breakout rooms, we're going to run another poll now, and then you're going to go into the breakout sessions. And I think we have a lot of resource folk here that can also answer some of these questions that you might be having regarding organizations that hire, organizations that help sort of with the reentry process and everything. So first and foremost, I want to thank all of the panelists, but I'll thank you again when we come on back to sort of officially close the program. So Tiffany?
So just so you're all aware, the breakout rooms right now, some of you were able to pre-register. For those of you who are who are a resource representative, you'll be automatically whisked away to your breakout room for your organization. You can feel free to share your screen if you wanted to share any visual information for the students or attendees that will be in the room with you. Okay. Now, some of you, as the audience members, some of you may have selected which breakout room you're interested in going to, first, second, and third. However, when we were setting that up this morning, it did not save. So I'm sorry, it's going to go randomly right now, but you will have the opportunity that once you're done in a specific breakout room, you can leave and enter a different one if you're interested in attending another resource. It'll be 15 minutes total. Once you have a minute left before the breakout rooms close, you'll see a notification letting you know that you have 60 seconds, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms now. You will get a notification on your screen letting you know to please enter the next breakout room. Okay. So some people should be leaving. Now, for other representatives, I do have some empty rooms in here. Do we have anyone from Center for Community Alternatives? If you're here, please put your name in the chat so then I can add you. Is anyone here from Drive Change, Activate Your Life, Inc., Workshop in Business Opportunities, Friends of Island Academy? Please let me know if you're here so then you can be added to those spaces. Okay. What our panelists, are you interested in going into any specific rooms? Please feel free to let me know and I'll shoot you on over.
This is William. You could place me in any room. What room is it?
Okay.
Same with me, David.
Will do.
I didn't see myself on the list, but I think you had said you wanted to make a room in case anybody wanted to talk about personal counseling, right?
Oh, Esther, yes. Let me shoot you into personal counseling.
How do people move to another room?
They'll leave the room that they're in to come back to the main room. And then
Then they can ask to go somewhere else if they want.
Nathan, do you want me to send you anywhere? Or you're good here? Janet, would you like to go anywhere or are you good here? Okay, I'm gonna assume we're good.
I'm okay. I'm okay here.
Sorry. Oh, I. Sorry, Angela and Janet. I just added you two to a random room.
I know. I was like, what am I doing here?
Sorry about that. Give me a second. Let me move these people out of here.
Move everybody else,
Oh,
and then I'll go to another
Janet
one.
has to leave.
Janet had to leave. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Keith Brown is. Hello, Mr. Brown. Is there another room you'd like to go to?
Actually, I just picked up on what you all were doing about an hour ago, but basically, I'm calling you actually from, I'm zooming in from El Paso, Texas.
Oh.
And
okay.
I just want to, this is interesting to me because I knew a gentleman who had trouble reintegrating and he wound up going back. And one of the things I had a hard time understanding was, what are the dynamics of, he explained what he was going through, and a big part of it was a lack of family
support.
Yeah, and that was just talking with him. That was the number one thing, and so I just really wanted to kind of listen in and see, is this something common, with those who were previously incarcerated? Do they all go through this?
I don't think it's all, but some have a stronger family dynamic. But if you heard from our former alumnus Beverly, she had a very hard time struggling just to reconnect with her own family, and I know that that's something that they do suffer with and do encounter strongly. That's very it's common for a majority, but not all of them. Some have a very strong family dynamic, but just adjusting, time is something you can't ever get back, and things can change so quickly in a short amount of time. Just coming out to and re-entering this new world. I think someone was telling me, oh my God, they were talking about the iPhones, right? And they're like, I've lived through a time when there were like, numerical beepers to this, right? And That's literally a lifetime for
Wow.
some people, if you think about it. And to have gone in, let's say, fall either, you know, you served a small amount of time or that length of time where you've gone from a numerical beeper to an iPhone, the world has changed in a way where there's a hard adjustment as well. So it's not just about familial support, but it's about intellectual support, and that's the for us at the college. Well, for me, it's like I would want these people to have the confidence and support enough to come in, get their education, you know, get that whatever life where you would detracted from, get back on track, and move forward. So.
Well, you know, I just like so I'm using that experience, and even knowing people, because I met him just by chance. The guy was actually looking for work at a gas station. You know, he said, I can do carpentry, I can do whatever. And I was like, you know, he said, if you just give me a chance. And I did that. But again, and then it seemed to be going well, you know, because you're going to recommend that individual, say, you know what, this is someone who's done great work for me. But it just appeared to me, just listening, the family support piece, which makes sense, I guess, if you don't have a strong family foundation, that's the basics of what sustains us as humans. And that kept becoming very shaky. And then there was even a disconnect with the mother, you know? And this was like, he was in prison for 10 years. But I realized, wow, the psychological bonds and the emotional bonds must have been not frayed, but just deteriorated, I think. And they didn't understand him. And then he wasn't open also, because I mentioned that to him. I said, you know, somehow you've got to lower this sense of I'm always on guard. He was always on alert, you know, always, you know, and then that's like a PTSD type of thing.
It is.
And it's just it's to me it's a horrible thing, because I brought it up to, you know, I stay involved in the community here, and I brought it up at community meetings, especially even when the sheriff was there, and he's got his take on what they do, but they don't care about those kinds of things. You know, I mean, I'm just being straightforward. I don't.
You're absolutely correct.
No, they don't like hearing that, because they want to tell you about, well, we do this X, Y, and Z for reintegration. I said, you may do it, but there's a psychological piece here that's missing. And I said, we've got all these great minds in this country, and I don't get it. We just waste. This is just me. They waste these great minds, because these folks are smart. No, it's just a matter of giving folks a chance. That's really what it's all about.
And I think you heard from Jose Lopez, who works with Elizabeth in the Future Now program, and this is what he was talking about, the mental health aspect, where that's something we all have issues with mental health on the norm, but as a returning citizen, from, you know, trying to re-enter society and really get back on track, and let's say you don't have that familiar support. Yeah, the mental health. Yeah, a lot of our.
I see it be really, I don't like to talk in catastrophic terms, but you have to. In order to deal with a problem, it is going to be a catastrophe after post-COVID.
Yeah.
It's going to, because the jobs, people don't realize is those jobs, retail jobs, these dining in type jobs, those are going to go away. Those are going to change drastically.
Yeah.
You know, because now there's so much going on. Though you see, I go into McDonald's about 3 months ago. I just went in there, and they've got these things where you
screen
on the board. And I walked out. I said, wow, this is, you know, I mean, and I'm retired, so I don't go out that much. You know, I work at home. But I looked at that and I said, wow, what happens to those who don't have formal educations and that are able to negotiate the complexities of the 21st century,
right?
And post-COVID. So folks had better be creative with what they plan on doing with people, because the recidivism is going to go back up. If they're not watching this, if folks are not aggressive enough and creative enough to try and look at this and say, let's get ahead of it. Let's come up with ideas on what we could possibly do. It's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you know what will happen? It's just me. Again, we'll go back to the let's lock them up. That nonsense from the Reagan and these early years of, let's lock them up. That's the solution. And I'm one that I'll always push back against that because that's just not the answer.
Right. And definitely the development of pipeline programs, to help educate them so that they are at least up to speed to what's going on. Like when I think I tell a lot of our automotive, like people who want to go and they're like, I just want to be a mechanic. And I'm like, okay, you do realize that now automobiles are like, if they're not like all electric or they're going that way. So you're going to need to know math and computer technology and all of that stuff. So you need pipeline programs. You need a lot of hopefully financial aid and programs that they can find what it is they love to do, or what it is that they know that they can do for until retirement, just like everybody else. And I think the desire of normality and being able to sustain your family and engage more support with family members, and it's just about normality, right? Living your life. You've done whatever you did, and now you're returning and you're re-entering, and now you need support, and that support is important. Mental health is important, and education is extremely important.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to dominate or anything.
No, absolutely. No, we're just kind of waiting around for the breakout rooms to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're about to finish in 60 seconds, actually. They just got their 60 seconds.
Are you going to do the poll when they come back?
Yeah, we'll do the poll when they come back.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, you guys can keep talking though.
No. It was a great conversation. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to it, but it's a good conversation, and I think if more people ask those questions in a setting like this, there's more understanding, right? And more aha moments that they're like, I can't wait to see this poll now. It's probably going to be a little different. I hope, right? In a positive way too. I don't want it to be a little different. It's
and actually, I want to say the conversation that was happening in here was a good one, because Stefan and Rachel, they were both sent to other breakout rooms, and I think they were like, I like what's going on in here.
But
it's just psychological resources there's going to be a great need after this.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's coming back now.
There we go. Let me mute a minute.
Okay, welcome. We're just gonna wait around a little more as people keep coming in, as people are leaving their breakout rooms. I hope at least those 10 minutes you all had, 10, 15 minutes you all had in these breakout rooms, they were very helpful and you were able to get information. I know we didn't get the opportunity to switch in and out of different resource rooms. So what we'll be doing is we're actually going to email everyone all of the resources that have signed up for today's event, who were here and representing, and even including those that didn't make it but did sign up for it. We'll send you the organizations, a contact person for that organization, and the mission statement of the organization. So at least you have a little bit of background information as to what each org does. Okay, so you will receive that via email. And go ahead, Angela. Hold on, you're muted.
Okay. I was just going to say, before we forget, I wanted to make sure, especially for our students that are here now, or individuals that may be planning on coming to BCC, I didn't want to miss the opportunity to share that we are unique in that we have a scholarship the Khalif Browder Memorial Scholarship here at the college, and it's for continuing students who were justice involved or returning citizens. And we've been challenged in the last couple of years with identifying students because people don't want to declare what their backgrounds are, and so they think that there might be an issue with applying. But I just wanted to share that information because you're going to see the application flyers coming out probably in early spring. And so if you know of a student, or if you are a student that could use scholarship support and you are a returning citizen, this scholarship is for you, specifically for you. So we wanted to make sure that in this program we had an opportunity just to share that, so that students who are looking for that support know that they can apply for it. And the information is specifically just to make sure you get this scholarship.
Thank you,
you.
Andrew.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
So I know that we're about to go into a poll question now, but while you're filling out the poll question, I think that the idea of, or the topic of mental health came up, and I think it's so significant and important. I know Jose was talking about it, Jose Lopez, Elizabeth. I know Beverly touched on it, and we had Mr. Brown. You still here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, is actually had some thoughts on it, and I just wanted, if any of the panelists or Jose or Mr. Brown would wanted to talk about, like, what the aspect of mental health and how it can adversely affect this returning citizens.
Juan, can I just add? I want to add something. We have a film that was based on Khalif Browder, and I realized I always assume that everybody has seen it. And coming from the last group, I realized that most people have not, because it's now a few years old. It's on Netflix. It's called Time, the Khalif Browder story, and it really profiles the effects of incarceration on mental health. So if anybody wants more information about him and the scholarship and why the scholarship was created, go on to Netflix. They still have it for viewing. He was a student at Bronx Community, and you guys can see the rest. I mean, it's a long story, but thank you.
Please don't forget to fill out the poll question. We want.
Yeah, we have 30 seconds left for the poll question, and 31 people have answered. So just waiting for the last 30 seconds to kick in.
While everyone is completing the poll, or if you've done that already, there is a lot of great information that people are posting in the chat. So if we could keep, even after the poll is done, just keep the chat open for a little bit in case anyone wants to copy information that's in there. I see my friend Dr. Lewis has posted information. He is an amazing coach and has a great show, a podcast that I've listened to as well. And a number of other individuals have posted some great information. So please do not miss the opportunity to go in there and just copy the information that's listed.
Thank you. And the poll results should be on your screen now?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
It's interesting to note that there was a lot of 90%, and now it's higher. It's closer to 100%, where people, for question number 1, are you still fearful of individuals released from incarceration? 90%, 7% said no, 3% said yes. After this workshop, do you believe that formerly incarcerated individuals should be allowed to vote? 100% said yes. And I believe it was like 5% was like, no, I don't know. And the other 5 was like, I don't know. So it's up. Are you willing to share the information you learned today with friends, peers, families, to reduce the stigma against formerly incarcerated individuals? And we have 97% that are for sharing this information. And so I hope that when you came into this panel today.
Yvonne, and also just as a clarification, that 3% on the first question, it's actually it was a mistake. I got a message, and so it should be 100% said no.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. I think that I hope that whatever stigma or biases that you walked into Zoom with um, today have been dispelled. And if they have not yet been dispelled, I hope that you take advantage of all of the organizations and all of the uh, panelists here today and everything that they've said. And if ask the question, keep delving so you could um, get your questions answered and dispel those biases and beliefs. And so, um, I'd like to thank all of the panelists, Beverly Emmers, our one our one and only that we love to cry along with her. I love when she cries because I cry with you, Mama.
They fronting because I was getting on their nerves, but it's all good. I love you all.
Uh, Mr. William Evans, thank you so much. Dr. David Pitts, Elizabeth, I am not going to ruin your last name again because I'm gonna mess it up. But I want you all to take a moment, and you can take a moment and just say any last thoughts that you'd like to say to it. Anyone can take it.
Yeah, I'm not on the panel, but I just say this whole question of terminology is a fascinating question, and we convict people by using certain terminology. We don't give them the opportunity to be themselves because we know you're an ex-convict. Ooh, versus you're a person who's returned. I like that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Is it okay if I say something real quick?
Please, Esther, I was just about to say that. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say two things. First of all, I just wanted to let any students here know that at BCC, if you are a student at BCC, we have free and confidential short-term counseling, referrals, and assistance in the Office of Personal Counseling. So if you're interested or anyone you know is interested, please ask them or you can contact us at personal.counseling@bcc.cuny.edu. Or you can call us at 718-289-5223. That's our main number, and leave a message and someone will get back to you the same day. And I also wanted to mention, I imagine that a lot of the students that are attending this are interested in pursuing careers in mental health or human services. And
hold on, Esther, your sound has been, you've been in and out, Esther, hold on.
She's probably trying to introduce Get Psyched.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately someone's trying to call me. So we have a program called Get Psyched, which is a career development program for students pursuing careers in mental health and human services. And we are pretty sure we're going to be getting funding for the spring, so we'll be hiring, we'll be sending out a broadcast soon. So if you are interested in pursuing a career in any of those related fields, please apply. It will be a paid program, fingers crossed, and we've been doing this for several years. And actually, Beverly is it was one of our earlier cohorts of the Get Psyched program. So, anyway, please consider that.
Awesome.
So yes, any parting words of wisdom, Mr. Evans, Dr. Pitts, Elizabeth, Beverly, anyone could go in there and give your parting words. Yes.
So I would definitely like to remind, especially the students that's watching, do not be afraid to take on internships. Do not be afraid of experiential learning because that's where you will get the best practice ever. Be able to be in community. Always take being in community before you take sitting behind a desk because the community, if these are the people that you plan to work with, then you need to see what it'll look like on the outside while people are living their everyday lives. Neighborhood benches offer internships, experiential learning. We design programs with colleges as well, but we design it just so you have the opportunity to know what it's like to walk in a community as a social worker, as well as a community leader and advocate.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have some words. I need to just share that with anyone who has had those experiences is to be easy with yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people and where they are in life. You start from where you're at. And for me, I used to work. I used to just be on campus, just involved in a lot of things, and a lot of what drove me is the stigma. Or I felt like I wasn't good enough, or I felt like I wasn't doing enough, and I was just driving myself crazy. I literally grew gray hairs at BCC from doing so much and not sleeping. It's good to be involved, but just watch, and just be easy with yourself. You start from where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you, Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just want to say maybe it's time that we stop being the experts and let the students be part of the solution. They are experts. They know way more than us how to fix it. And creating space for everybody to participate and come up with solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
And for me, I'll just say thanks for letting me take part in today's conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone that joined us today. Um, I hope, like I said, I hope you leave here with a better understanding, an open mind, and a whole heck of a lot less biases and stigmas.
Absolutely. And just so you all know, the email with the resource list, because those resources who signed up, they actually notified us whether they'll have internship, employment, or volunteer opportunities. They will be formatted in that list, in that type of outline. So you'll see the organizations that do have internships and employment opportunities or volunteer opportunities, and then you'll see the other organizations that they just have resources to provide that can be useful to you. Once again, thank you all so much. Thank you to the Social Justice Action Committee for putting this together. Thank you to the Social Justice Network. I love you all. Thank you so much. I don't know what else to say, but have a great day, be well, and take care of yourself. Personal
Thank
wellness is
you.
very important. Mental health is very important.
Yes, it
Beverly, I
is.
see you. Go ahead, girl. You're muted. You're muted. Bev, you're muted.
Don't go nowhere. My BCC family. Can I get 5 minutes?
Sure.
5 minutes.
So
I ain't trying that much, just a little bit, poquito.
Are you waiting for people to leave and just BCC people are left
I
here,
mean,
or you can
if
take
they
it?
want to listen, that's on them. But I just need to say, I love y'all.
I know you love us. No, I love you. I love you too.
No, I really do. And I just want to say this social, whatever y'all doing, like, yo, I'm here.
I know.
I'm here to volunteer. I'm here to mentor, like whatever, within reason, because I set boundaries now. I ain't stirring. But I mean, whatever I could do, whether it's the social justice system and just whatever it is, wherever it's CUNY, I'm usually like all different places. But I also need to say that John Jay, with their Justice Opportunity Center, they have created classes. They are creating classes in state facilities that is connected to CUNY. So they just kind of began this effort in this building. And so right now, they have a class that's connected to BMCC. And historically, we have that history. So maybe later on, we want to kind of figure out, just sort of like how Future Now goes to the island, that sort of same model. How do we use it for older adults and other facilities? And so I'll send contact information and just stuff that I have. And so our organization, we're working to increase access to education, because part of Clinton's bill was to restrict you from going to college if you was on public assistance. That was also in the package of the crime bill.
Yes.
And so when that happened, a lot of people left, and it's just so problematic. And so by federal law, it states that 30% of people who are on public assistance could like go to school. Right now, it's only 2% that's using that provision. And so I'm doing work. I'm gonna send updates, but like I just want to see where the organization, where we overlap with you, but on a personal level, Like I need to be part of this because you my home.
Yes, I know.
What's
So
up,
honestly,
BJ?
I think Beverly, if you want, I'll
Hmm.
definitely send you the invitation. We meet bi-weekly.
Yes.
You're more than welcome to join our meetings and listen to, the things that we talk about. Sometimes we'll use a meeting just to talk about what's affecting us, right? Directly, personally. And then sometimes we have meetings where we're actually just planning for the students, right? What event planning? Because the Social Justice Network, it's exactly that. It's just a network of all BCC faculty and staff that do social justice work on their own. Not that it has to be tied with the college or anything, but that they're involved in some way or
Hmm.
another in social justice activity and action. And so what we're doing is that let's gather at bi-weekly to learn what is it that we're all doing in these individual pockets, and then I get the marketing team involved. We'll send out the BCC broadcast. Let's start advertising. Let's start highlighting all the work that's already being done by the people that work at BCC, and that's our purpose really. And then also to educate, empower, and engage the student body with that type of social justice work.
Exactly.
How do you get in
What
touch with the Social Justice Network if you want to, like, let's say there's something that you're working on and you want to share it? How do
Shoot,
you?
you can shoot
Tiffany.
myself or Shamika Pierce an email with the information. You can
Okay.
shoot myself or Shamika Pierce an email with the information if you want us to help out with an event, if you want us to help with marketing with an event, or if you just have an event idea but you don't know how to take it off the ground, then bring it over here and we start, planning it out and working that out. So in any way, if you're interested in joining our listserv and you would like to get our
please said
bi-weekly
that?
updates, then shoot me an email too and I'll add you to the listserv. But yeah, we're very open. The only thing is we do have our community guidelines in our meetings. We do have our standards, so that'll be shared with you if you decide to join. Yeah.
Just quick, I want to give an update because this is like student life and love hall, and so one of the things that we've been working on that's just been announced that SNAP is doing a student expansion.
Mm.
So students, CUNY, SUNY, and so they're figuring out. We have policy meetings with the deputy commissioner, so on and so forth. And so even though we have a pantry, but there's something opening up where students will have easier access to SNAP and will sort of qualify with the hours they're doing in the classroom, sort of like how Edge has that thing going on. So there's going to be another SNAP component. I don't know how the universities are going to handle that or who's going to be the person to. So I just want to put down the radar, and I'll send Tiffany. I'll send you the city update, the DSS update, and so that could kind of alleviate where students could kind of get their needs met and buy their own food, because sometimes people have dietary restrictions or things are going on and they don't want the food pantry stuff and they get their own things.
Absolutely. And if there's any
Absolutely.
information that anyone else has that you would like to share that you think that the BCC student body can benefit from, then email it to us as well. I'll put my email in the chat again, just so people, to make sure that people have it, but shoot it over to either myself or Shamika. And what we end up doing is that I like to send out BCC broadcasts with all of the information that I gathered throughout the week. So then students can check the broadcast, sign up, click on the information. So all I ask is, whatever it is that you would like to share, that it's a small blurb explaining what it is, and then just a link with more information, so then we can redirect the students there. So that's my email, and then I'm putting in Shamika's email as well.
Well, this is still my 5 minutes because I asked for the 5 minutes. Wait, I just got something to say. You know that Khalid Browder movie? I cannot bring myself to watch it.
It's hard. It's
I
hard.
haven't finished watching it yet.
It's hard.
You guys saw the last two.
I spent time with his mother. I sat in the house even before I accepted that award. One of the things is I would not accept the award until I met the mother. Like, it was a big thing, right? We were screaming like, oh, and I met his mother. We sat on the tree, we hugged, and I would go, I could walk to his house, right?
Mhm.
But let me tell you how the universe works. That my street is named after Khalid Browder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right? So Richie Torres did that. He renamed like Prospect Khalid Browder Way. Like there's no mistakes. But I have not been able to watch that movie maybe sometime. But I just feel like the time that I spent with Vanita, I don't even really need to watch the movie.
Right.
Because I got firsthand
Beverly, she loved you immediately.
She
You guys
did.
were like, you guys were one. It was you guys were up and down and listen, they're together in heaven. That's the only way I can.
That's the only way we could see it,
I
right?
was supposed to cancel Benita and I would start crying. And President Thomas would say, Elizabeth, she needs to cancel you. I mean, it was just how is this woman living in this house where her son committed suicide?
Right.
In the house every single day, in and out. And you know, on the window there was a beautiful vine that was growing. You know, the window in his room where he used the air conditioner cord to kill himself. And
I know I was in the house, so I just want to say this.
Yeah.
BCC had some type of gala event, and I never really got the chance to connect with the brothers and sisters, right? Because I know there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, they felt like the story's getting exploited. There was a lot of emotional things that were going on, and I know I bumped into the brother. No lie, I was like, after I think we wound up taking a cab. We sort of like hung out that night. They were turning up too hard for me, but I just wanted to kind of spend time with him. And it would be good to know, like, what are they doing? Is there any way, we could still support them? Because not only that they have to go through the trauma of their brother and their mother literally dying of a broken heart, and I really believe that. So I just want to just put that out there, and I just didn't want to approach him because I didn't, everybody was like sort of suspect at the time to them. So
they're doing okay. Good. Kamal actually finished at the Workforce Development Office. He did a training with Kenneth Adams, and he's working now in a nursing home.
Good.
He's living with his brother Dion, and they also won the lawsuit.
Good.
Also, they have some money. They haven't seen the money yet, but they won, so they will have some help.
Okay, good.
But
you got 30 seconds left, Bev. You good?
I'm good. I'm good. Y'all,
Beverly, join the Get Psych the group that we made. The Facebook.
I know I need to get on. I'm not a social media person, but I'm gonna get to it. I have social media accounts and don't get on it.
It's just easier to be in touch. You know what I mean, with everybody. It's just easier that way. And then email is just so hard to be in touch via email.
You know what? That's one of the stigma too why I don't have social media, because I think people, in my mind, I'm thinking, what did I do in my past? And this is real, that I'm not really on social media because I don't know who's gonna find me. Or I did have social media and people from my past were trying to connect with me, and I didn't want nothing to do with them, and I didn't know how to fix my social media to just block people and just have it. So that may be a thing, like building a social media and knowing how to curb people from your past, because people hitting me up and I'm not about that life no more. So
well, you could put a fake name and you can put a picture that's not you, or like, anything for your picture. And then
that's
just
a good idea.
Know,
okay.
This is Beverly. This is Beverly.
Okay.
Network, yes.
Bev, I have 2 different types of social media.
I
have
do a ghost page. Okay.
I'm just saying, I have one where it's family and friends and people that, from my community, but then I have just my professional BCC Facebook page where it's just my professional people that I connect with. And they have 2 different names because, not that I post bad stuff. I hardly post on Facebook, but the people that I know, they post crazy stuff, and I just didn't want.
That would be me.
No,
and I only have one page.
No,
Even
way
things are
crazy.
very funny. Sometimes we have a feature now Facebook, and sometimes I go on the wall and you're there, and it makes my day because you're.
Oh man, Yvonne will crack you up with the memes that she finds. Like, and the worst part is they're not just shareable memes. It's not like, oh, I could just share this. This means that she saved the photo to her phone or laptop to then reshare.
That's me too, Yvonne. I think I need to friend you.
There you go. And I only have one. Eventually it'll get me fired. But
I'm gonna get Jason to do it.
You know what? It's funny because a lot of mine is
a lot of mine is on my page.
A lot of mine is like social justice and politics, and I'm like, well, I'm a social worker, so I guess that's part of my job. But
mine is a little. Some days.
But it's funny. It's funny how like people get to know you in a different kind of way on social media. Because sometimes when we talk to each other, we don't always get to know a lot of things about each other just from like superficial. Somehow on social media, even though it has negative aspects to it, it also allows you to get to know people like in a deeper way sometimes.
And especially at this time, I mean, it's very hard. You're alone, and you feel alone.
I'll teach you how to work on your security settings
I'm gonna get
and all of that.
because Jason, I owe him food.
Jason?
No, Jason and Bright, we the Migos. We Migos.
Jason always eating though.
All the time.
And he's
That's
still,
how it was.
my pinky still is thicker than him still.
Let me tell you, Jason could eat, and let me tell you, his alcohol tolerance is like,
oh, see, I didn't know that.
No, because I'm taking him out, and I'll be like, what the hell? Yo, in the Jamaican spot, them giving him rum punch, and I'm like, you sure you got the heat?
I'm sure he was good.
They good,
I'm sure he was good.
My
The time we've been in
this
school.
reminded me of the gala. Remember the gala at BCC where the food took forever to come out and everybody
was drinking.
And
it was like, and then they put you at tables with
I couldn't
like
drink while I was
donors.
there because it was like the rule.
You were there. You were actually getting the award that night, and we were like, "Where's the food?" The food came out like maybe people were leaving. The food never came out.
And that's Sarah Brown. They birthday so, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh,